There was one incident that seemed to me, it still seems to me, so symbolic of the problems. The students, my students, kept telling me, you know, you've got to help get some of these people out of jail. And I said, well, what can I do? I can't get them out of jail. And they said, well, you're an American. You can do anything here. And we argued, and finally they said, okay, you can go to the PX and get a bottle of whiskey and a carton of cigarettes and take them to the prison director, and he'll give you, and we were talking about Quan, one student. And I tried to explain my opposition to the PX because Vietnamese could not go to the American store. Only Americans could go. Anyway, they convinced me that their moral dilemma was bigger than mine. And so I finally agreed, and I went, and they said, now, be sure you get Johnny Walker Black and that you get Marlboro cigarettes, because that's his favorite. They did their research, you know, they knew what he was like. And I remember I got it, I went out, and I didn't think it was going to work either. But anyway, so I'm sitting there, and I give my bottle of whiskey, or, you know, to the prison director. And so he poured each of us a cup of whiskey. And I was a teetotaler at the time, but I knew if I didn't drink my cup of whiskey, I'd never get Quan out of jail. So I drank, and, you know, he poured a few more cups full, and we kept drinking, and the bottle was getting closer to empty. And so I said, when one of my students got arrested, you know, and I had the date, and he's here. And, you know, and he's very anti-communist, he's very pro-American, he's a very good student, you know, can you release him? And the prison director said, well, you Americans don't understand what's going on, you know, I do. I know communism, and I know this guy is a bad person. And I said, no, he's really nice, you know. And so finally he said to one of the guards, go get this guy. And he brought him out, and he said, here, you can have him. I don't want him anymore. And the thing, I mean, I was amazed. I didn't think I was going to get Quan out either, but somehow I thought, you know, well, the students, you know, my friends want me to do this, so I'll try. And went back, and then the students said, oh, we didn't think it was going to work. You know, and sort of, but the things that I remember of that are, first of all, the corruption. It's so symbolic of the corruption that took place. The other thing that really surprised me then, and has since in my life, was what a nice guy the prison director was, you know, on a personal level. You know, we were sitting there, we would talk, we would laugh, we would joke, and yet on another level he was so evil. You know, he knew that people were being tortured, but he was doing it because he had been told, and he believed, I'm sure, that they were evil people, communists. But you know, he had his, what do they say, we all have our selling point, you know, and his was a bottle of whiskey and a carton of cigarettes. I mean, just pure corruption. And when I'm thinking of Vietnam, you know, I think that was, I mean, there was so much that's so symbolic, you know, of the corruption, of good people getting caught up, you know, in that war, taking sides for their own profit, you know, all those things, and how powerful we as Americans were, you know, in running Vietnam, you know, and I mean, you know, when I went out, I mean, if I had been a Vietnamese, I mean, you know, I wouldn't have been invited into his office. He wouldn't have listened to me. So we were taking, you know, sort of everything away from the Vietnamese, you know, and, you know, I still don't know whether exchanging whiskey and cigarettes for prisoners was really a good thing, You know, I questioned that because I was doing what the Vietnamese, you know, should have been doing. You know, but anyway, I did, and you know, that's the story.